No magic tricks. Hey, Raphael. So I wasn't working, so I thought I'd go online and maybe I'd work a little. So I'm putting on some vinyl gloves, and I'm going to mix up a little bit of Aves. Hey, Glauco. Raphael, it's Apoxie Sculpt. I'm sure you've probably seen it. It's a two-part mixture. And we love it. We started working in it. We'll still work in Super Sculpey. I was just eyeballing those to see if they're about the same. But we'll still work in Sculpey Medium Blend or Sculpey Firm. But especially for these larger pieces that are going to go to the shows, and they're going to break down into a bunch of parts. Like the head comes off, the tail comes off. All this stuff is going to come off, and that's going to make it easier for production of it. So our goal is to have resin copies of this at Monsterpalooza. Since we had it last year, it'd be a damn shame if we couldn't complete it. So anyhow, I'm just going to mix this up. Thanks, man. You know, the other sculptors buying the stuff means so much to us. Glauco and Raphael, when the other sculptors, y'all know what it's like. If you sell something to another sculptor, it's like selling 2 or 3 of them, it feels like. At least to me. So I'll mix it up a little bit, not too much. The plumber's putty is the stuff you really don't want to overmix. The Odie plumber's putty, the stuff, you don't want to overmix it. It'll start to break down. So anyway. The base is just a piece of wood. You know, and that's what we like to use a lot of times. just because you can drill into it so easily, and you can change the pose. And see, it was initially probably flat, and then we added this here to get them at a better angle. And that's that happens a lot. So I've just repositioned the head. For what I'll call the second time. And I'm just adding some to the helmet. My concern from over here I'm looking for my tool. Oh, Lord. Anyway. Concern from over here is that there's too much distance from the bottom of the jaw to the top of the clavicle. It's a little bit long right in here for me. So I'll probably add some right in here. Boom, boom, boom. And lift it up. I've got a little tub of water I need to fill up a little bit. And the water just helps your hand not stick. And so all the things I'm adding at this point will be going in the direction of the muscles. I hope. The thing about muscles, you can't make them all big or none of them will be big. You have to keep spots like the wrist come back into reality so that tricep and everything else looks huge. I'm happy with how this is laid out. It's just not very round from other angles. So without making it bigger. So it's got a lot of little stuff on it. These little things will have to either get way thicker or they'll have to be taken off. Since we're going to make copies of this. Thanks, Glocko. We look forward to seeing you there, man. Keep up the great work. Not sure if this will have eyeballs or not. You know, it's still up in the air. Thanks, Mark. Um, we like to do the directional eyeballs, like looking over to the side, just because it's a little trick, just to add something happening. But eyeballs in a skull can look tricky. Can look cartoony. It can be tricky if it can look. It's just tricky to keep it sinister. This is kind of a big piece. It's not 1/4, but it's not 1/6 either. It's somewhere in between there. It's pretty good size. Oh, thanks, Felice. Appreciate that. We love a skull monster. That's it's one of our go-to things. It's so simple, but fun. So I'm just dipping my fingers in water a little bit. Because with the Aves, with the Aves mixed just within the last 10 minutes, this is as soft and wet as it's going to be. So if you keep your fingers slick, and I've got on vinyl gloves, it's smooth and it adheres to itself really well. I mean, I always see a lot of stuff when I look through the camera at the piece, whether it's a video or the head comes off. It's just a piece of wood, just a square piece of wood that's going down into a square pole. No, gloves suck. I don't like working with gloves either. About after the first hour, you don't have to. But as you get into the second hour, it doesn't want to stick to itself as well. So it's a trade-off. Thanks, Cheryl. Hey, Shane, I like that thing you posted earlier with the teeth and the rusted metal stuff around it. That was cool. So anyway, one of the issues we're having with this is that when we photograph it, the right leg is photographing funny. It doesn't look like a dog leg. So we've extended the legs since this has last been seen. 3/4 of an inch exactly down in here. Boom, you can still see evidence all this gnarliness. But one thing about Aves is it's so dense that it's easy to cut apart and then put it back together. So these hooves are going to be a good sight larger because they're not big enough. It's going to have some big stompers. These could easily be claws, but they're going to be split hooves with the inside a little bit larger than the outside. But we also intend to have this shrunk down with the magic of hydrospan, and so we'll have it at a smaller scale. So I'm going to keep making the helmet lower, because who wants a short helmet? But I want to keep some of these little action lines in here going this way. All that stuff. So, again, not really feeling the eyes for this, but they might happen. If I were to see something I really liked, that helped the piece instead of hinder it. See, it can get cartoony quick with the big eyeball in his skull. The helmet is pretty generic right now. So, I can't keep bringing this bicep out. At some point, it needs to just be where it is. Hey, Mark. Thanks, man. I feel like it's a little crooked. Oh, thanks, Luke. Yeah, that'd be cool. We've had some really cool tattoos done by a guy named Matthew Morocca, Mrowka. And he did the Viking piece and then he did the Executioner piece. Both of them real big. Thanks, Pablo. So this isn't great by any means. Whatever's going on here, this needs to get sorted out. I'm looking at it through the camera. Oh, I saw that, Cheryl, that you cut your finger. That sucks. I hate that. Brandon slipped New Year's Eve night on the ice, cracked his head, and had to get a bunch of stitches. I think like 7 or 8 stitches in the back of his head. So I just thought I'd share that. And then he asked me to take the stitches out, which I did. And then he pulls a stitch out a couple of days later, starts whining. And I'm like, what am I, Dr. Quinn, medicine woman? So anyway, I don't like that eyeball, just like I thought. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. Hey, Julio. Yeah, that medical glue is good stuff. So I'm just going to fill all this in and try to bring up this area. Like I was talking about, the distance between this clavicle and jaw is a little much. Yeah, Brandon's fine. We don't get that much ice in Texas, so when the driveway's iced over, just a weird deal. But I just like saying, what am I, Dr. Quinn, medicine woman? So that was the point of that. But now I'm more happy with the length of this helmet. Yeah, Barry, we do. We've been filing more stuff and getting more files uh, ever since we started using Aves. And we've been dremeling a lot too. We use a lot of files like this. Now this is nasty and rusted, but just files. And then these are great little files for maybe chainsaw blades. I know some of them are sold to sharpen chainsaws, but some of them are just awesome little files. So we love those. And sanding it, wet sanding it, and dremeling it with various metal Dremel bits. Aves responds well to all that. Okay, Julio, we are going to get it molded and we will get you one ASAP. Oh yeah, I love to Dremel Aves. Sure. And sand, and one of my favorite things is a dull round X-Acto. This round number 2. It's dull as shit, but I like the round blades because I feel it gets a more organic shape. And we'll have some sharp ones, some pointed ones around, but when it's go-to time, I prefer a round blade. And it really just becomes a chisel, even more than an X-Acto. Oh yeah, we know that feeling of, is this demoralizing or is this inspiring? Uh, every time we look at Simon Lee's work or Paul Komoda or somebody like that, Tom Keebler, where we're just like, shit, should we give up and get a job at Lowe's or should we keep fighting the good fight? So I feel like the cameras. So there's just a lot happening on the helmet that will probably get resolved into something simpler. because I'm not really in love with it. I was just trying to make it kind of rococo. We're kind of just a lot of stuff happening. Probably come in with the Dremel and take out some of the meat of it right here. This looks a little... Oh, thanks. I appreciate you saying that. I think that everybody probably struggles. I really want this muscle to pop right here, but I don't want to keep bringing it out wider. So I need to carve back all this stuff around it before I do that. That'll help the arm look huge. Hey, John, thanks, man. It's funny the stuff you see looking through the camera. Something's going to happen right here. It might be a skull, because why not? But I'm not sure. Well, thank you. Um, if we try to make stuff too clean, it's It's not as much fun. We like the stuff that looks loose. That's what we're drawn to. Like, I always liked Bisley, but I also liked Mark Teixeira. He did a Sabretooth limited series that was real cool. So there's just some very vague stuff happening right up in here. At some point, we gotta start deciding what's actually happening. No, we don't do a lot of humor type stuff. I don't mind cute, uh, but Brandon hates cute. So, but there's a lot of stuff we don't do. Yeah, the Bisley Lobo and Slain, that was my jam. Yep. And then I loved Walt Simonson's Thor. If I'm thinking back to those early days. Oh yeah, I saw your live stream and you were having audio difficulties. Yeah. Hey, Jason. Thanks, man. I'm not crazy about this thing, the transition from the wing to the body. There's going to be some collected type stuff that's been added to the wings, but there are organic wings underneath, is the idea. So I might have to take this stuff off and help that area get more natural looking, and then put the little stuff back on. But it was a shitload of work to get the head repositioned. But I'm going to bring up this top of this deltoid as high as I can to reduce this length in here I keep talking about. And that's what we would call cheating it up to avoid some other problem. Do we do straight, stiff poses like museum pose, or a lot of times for video games, we might do them in just a very neutral Da Vinci type pose? But no, in general, we try to avoid it like the plague. If I never sculpt another thing in museum pose, I'll be perfectly fine. The great thing to do is contrapposta, and you can put that into YouTube. And it's just the idea of putting your weight on one leg, like the David. It's a Greek thing where they're like, it's in neutral, it's in action, it's doing all things at once. But basically, it's just shifting your weight. And it's a lot more interesting of a pose than just standing flat footed like an action figure. But this is such in the middle of the whole composition that it's got to be something. So it'll probably be a little skull. But for right now, we'll just make it something round. All right, well, I just wanted to poke at it a little bit online. I'll get this camera out from in front of me and try to really get to work. But I appreciate everybody watching, and I appreciate everybody participating in the forum. Y'all have a good night.